Hello, I'm Richard Raffan. I have here a log of photinia which was growing yesterday, and be interesting to see how it works. I can't remember whether it's likely to walk very much or not. I'm rather hoping it does because I like to do these wavy bowls. Anyway, we'll see what happens. Right, I have a crotch here, a nice handle for holding the log. But I'm going to work at this end, and I'm not sure if there's rot in the middle. There doesn't seem to be. So the first thing always is just to cut off a thin slither and see what there is. So this is the flatter side of the log, so that's the safer way to hold it. This is just a half-inch blade, so it's not ideal for this, but save changing it. And so that looks solid. Let's get another thin slither. Now that could be a drink mat, I suppose, a heat mat, but the main idea here is to try and bend it and see if there are any splits, which there is in fact on that line. So just set those aside for a minute and cut off a length. And the split has developed, I can see. There's a definite split through there. So I will not be cutting it that way for the maximum width. And I just hope that that line is vertical now, and when I pull it up that way, I hope to see the line, the split going in much the same direction, which it is. So there's evidence of the split. Oh, and it's way off. Did I do that the wrong way up? Huh. Maybe I did. Anyway, I'm now going to push this through the other way up. So there's a wedge coming out of this. Right, so there's a bowl in there. And what I want now, that's the broad flat face, so that goes flat on the lathe. That's at right angles to it, but that's a bit dangerous to push through because the blade's on an overhang. So I'm going to cut this angle off. That's a wedge. That now stands up nicely on its own. Now by having a flat there, I can now mark that as a circle and cut that. Deal with that in a second. Same thing with this one. Right, so that face is at right angles to that face, more or less. I'm just going to take this little angle here, just take the angle out. Right, so I'm not going to need the bark on either side, take that off. It's not a question of not need, it's don't want. Now I have a knot coming in here, which seems to come into there, which will distort the timber a bit. But I'll go for that end because it might end up being quite attractive in the end bowl. One bowl, and that is going to be around 4 inches, 100mm diameter. Right, the flatter area is over this side, so we'll go that way. And cut those into discs. This bandsaw does not have a foot brake, and if you're buying a bandsaw and there's an option of one with a foot brake, take it. So I've drilled with a Forstner bit in the middle to fit over these 55mm sharp jaws. And the first aim is to get rid of everything I don't want, which is the bark. It's a 4-inch bowl running at 1650. 1/2-inch spindle gouge, 1/2-inch flute. Just to get rid of true up the top surface. So that's this little lot to come off here. And using the left wing of the tool, just drop the rest very slightly. Right, so that's the bark almost gone. I can just pull that off, then I can feel when it's smooth. Then you have this satisfying bunch of shavings at your feet. Now, I'm sorry you didn't see these cuts here. I should have moved the camera, but I got carried away. So still little bits of bark to come off. And that lot would have vanished very quickly anyway. So all I need to know now is just using the left wing. That's what you get. have dividers set here to this chuck size, so that is the size foot I can grip without marking the chuck, without marking the wood, and so that needs to come down a little bit. So what I do in this case is to use the gouge right on its iron line, the bevel up with where I want to go, which is straight in, raise the handle, pivot the tool into the wood, on that line, and just drag it back slightly. Then I can see there's still a slight little hunk out of the rim there, so you can just mark that with a black line, and that takes that away. Now I've got a reasonable looking bowl at the moment, and just need to cut up the side to screw that up. Deep fluted bowl gouge this time, 3/8. Going out into space, and the tool was just chattering a bit on the wrist. Not now. So that's nice and clean. Just going to cut down the hill here. Not the way you're supposed to do it because you're butting into end grain, but go nice and slowly and probably get a clean cut. It is slightly undercut. This might warp, so I might need to flatten the base, so I'll just undercut it a little bit. And looking at the side, this could have a little bit more off it. The pressure here, this hand is pushing the tool onto the rest, so that it doesn't chatter around on the rest. Minimal pressure against the wood. And I've still got a slight bump there, so I'm going to use this wing now to shear scrape. Fine. Not going to sand this. Very nice as is. So that can come off. The wet wood and metal, when they come together, there will be a black stain, so you try and keep the two apart with a little bit of plastic. Just make sure the plastic goes all the way around. So bowl gouge, deep fluted bowl gouge, using the wing first just to screw that up. Now it might be fun to make this ultra thin, so in this case I fit up a lamp, put it on the rest like that, so when I get near the final piece the light will just shine through the wall. Provided I can't see the light, I'll be directly, I'll be quite happy. Nice stuff. And this is a 32mm bowl scraper. Feels a little bit flat, so that gets honed. It's not quite taking the shaving I want with minimal pressure. That's better. Rest comes down and tilted slightly. I'm going to shear scrape up here. Shear scrape because that's safer than having the tool flat on the rest. The rest has to come up so the tool's tilted down when it's at centre. It's probably not quite as thin as you think it might be, so I'm going to take it down a bit more. So at the moment the top of the rim here is about 1.5 millimeters. I'm going to start just inside the lip, inside the rim. Whoa, that's looking a bit brighter. The thing you have to remember is that the wood, when it's wet, does transmit Well, the water transmits a lot of light through the wall. So what I'm now looking at is about 4 o'clock, trying to eliminate that dark line, or the step. Step's gone. Little lump just there. The rest just a shade high, and to reach down a bit too much over the rest. Slight lump in the middle, come up through the centre. Oh, forgotten about the lamp. This should look more impressive. So that is that little bowl, and if you really want to see exactly how thin it is, there's only one way to do that. Now, I know this will feel almost criminal, but you do learn an awful lot about bowl walls and the thickness and how they feel by cutting a few bowls in half, both good and bad. If you've got a really good bowl, you cut it in half to find out why it's good. And this wall down at the bottom here is just about 1 millimetre thick. So it's good fun when you've got some wet wood. Just play around, get a shape which you think is good, then cut the thing in half and see if it is as good as you thought.